so glad to be here with you today as Neighbor Power participants to talk about community engagement techniques and strategy, and to have a conversation with my staff through the panel, Quick to Act, Quick to Impact, using stakeholder engagement, data analysis, and public outreach to respond quickly to game-changing opportunities. In 2021, the city of Indianapolis received the first half of the American Rescue Plan funds, with over $400 million in federal funds over the next few years. The city began to develop this once-in-a-generation programming for the city of Indianapolis agencies and departments. From enhancing and expanding city parks, neighborhood and affordable housing initiatives, and public health programming, this funding plan allows the city to focus on ensuring Indianapolis remains a thriving, equitable, and safer city for generations to come. An allotment of funding for housing and neighborhood development that exceeds affordable housing initiatives in our city's 200-year history. So the City of Indianapolis Department of Metropolitan Development will be developing programs around a variety of this funding, including $20 million for the preservation and creation of affordable housing and $10 million for owner-occupied repair programs. This is such an incredible opportunity, and it can draw upon our strengths as a department to do community engagement in a unique and 21st century way. In the post-COVID environment, we learned so much about community engagement. We're not just doing in-person community engagement anymore. We're also trying to reach people by text, by internet, by Facebook, by every way that you interact with your community. And so I'm excited for you to learn more and to share more with my team through this panel. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Beth Neville, and I am the Community Development Block Grant Manager with the Division of Community Investments with the Department of Metropolitan Development. I'm going to talk a little bit today about how DMD engage stakeholders and practitioners through this process. So why do we engage stakeholders? Knowing that this is likely a once-in-a-generation investment in affordable housing for our city, we knew that we couldn't formulate a plan in a vacuum. We also wanted to be sure that we weren't going to accidentally duplicate any existing programs, and that this funding could really be used to meet unmet needs of residents. We know that there are lots of programs out there, but we also know that there are challenges faced by our citizens that don't yet have resources dedicated to it. Finally, affordable housing is multifaceted. It includes everything from construction of rental housing to financing homeownership, eviction prevention and legal assistance, to homelessness services. And we know that we cannot be experts in everything, but there are experts in each of these fields that can help us better understand these challenges. So how do we go about doing stakeholder engagement? We engage developers, not-for-profit organizations, advocates, homelessness service providers, funders, lenders, and more. First, we did an email invitation to all of our existing networks. But knowing that that would not include every stakeholder, we also compiled a list of people and organizations who may be missing and ensured that they got direct invitations as well. Unfortunately, given where we were with the COVID crisis, we hosted these as virtual meetings. Not always ideal, but those were the circumstances at the time. So we know that people feel comfortable engaging in different ways. There are some folks who really like to think out loud and brainstorm with others, versus others who really like to have some quiet time to formulate their thoughts. I think the simplest way to kind of boil this down is, you have your extroverts and you have your introverts. Sometimes those large group meetings can be really helpful for bouncing off ideas and really generating those creative sessions. But sometimes you also get a lot more honest feedback and a lot more direct feedback when it's a one-on-one conversation. So because of this, we hosted a series of practitioner-specific large group meetings that were based around certain themes and expertise. So those experts could really kind of speak the same language and bounce those ideas off of one another. We also offered to host one-on-one conversations for any practitioner who was interested. Finally, we also encouraged people to submit written comments. And the reason we did this is because some people don't feel comfortable engaging in those large group meetings, and some people just don't even like those one-on-ones. And quite frankly, people are kind of zoomed out at this point. So creating another avenue for those stakeholders was critical. So what kind of impact did all of this have? Through these conversations, and thanks to the perspectives of our partners, unmet needs and potential programs have been identified that city staff never would have thought of on our own. Not only that, but experts in these different fields can help us think through unexpected challenges and potential unintended consequences of different program structures and policy decisions. And most importantly, by engaging these stakeholders as part of the process, we're more likely to get buy-in from them on eventual programs and policies because they helped us co-create it. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Daniel with our long-range planning team.
Hi, all. My name is Daniel Hedgeland, and I'm a senior planner on the long-range planning team here in the Department of Metropolitan Development. I'm going to talk a little bit about how DMD has used data analysis as part of mobilizing ARPA funds. There are many different policy and finance tools for addressing affordable housing. However, these tools work best under different circumstances. For example, preservation of affordable units through tools like community land trusts might make sense in areas where housing prices are rising rapidly, and we expect those prices to continue to rise. And targeted home repair and rehabilitation may make sense in areas where a large number of rehabs and rapid resales are taking place to support residents who might be at risk to be displaced if major home repairs lead to significant financial burdens. We want to match the right tools to the most appropriate challenges and opportunities. Analyzing data on housing within Marion County can help us to do just this. This helps the City of Indianapolis and the Department of Metropolitan Development get the most impact from investment into our communities. We did our analysis in 3 parts: collecting the data, mapping the data, and analyzing the data. There are a number of publicly available data sources that we use to help understand the housing market in Indianapolis. To help us best utilize the ARPA funds, we use data on sales prices for residential properties. We also use data on how the property is being used, such as whether it's a residential use, commercial use like a business, industrial use like a manufacturing plant, things like that. To help us understand where people are making improvements and reinvesting into a property, which can be an indicator of these rehabs and rapid resales, we use building permit data from the Department of Business and Neighborhood Services within the City of Indianapolis. Our goal is to pull all of this data together to create a more complete picture of housing and affordability in Indianapolis. We collected data from each individual source. Much of this data starts as a spreadsheet. However, to be the most helpful and to combine the data, we use software that helps us make maps. We then use this software to turn these Excel lines into points on a map. Once all of the individual data points were mapped, which in this case was over 40,000 points, we then grouped these points together in block groups, which is a geographic area defined by the Census Bureau. Combining the data into groups helps us understand and compare different neighborhoods to each other. Once we process the data, we're able to do the actual analysis. As we think about our approach to mobilizing ARPA funds, we performed a number of analyses, including looking at the median sales price by block group for Marion County, which lets us understand how sales prices for residential homes differ across Marion County. We also looked at the change in median sales price since 2015, which lets us know how affordability is changing over this pretty short period of time. We've looked at areas where rehabs and rapid resales are more common. We also looked at the location of existing affordable housing throughout Marion County. This analysis has provided us insight into the housing market. For example, prices for residential properties, such as single-family homes, duplexes, and condos in Marion County have risen rapidly in recent years. On this map, the neighborhoods with the highest rise in median sales prices are in dark brown. As you can see, there are a number of these neighborhoods in close proximity to downtown. Data also shows that there are several neighborhoods with a high number of rehab and rapid resale properties, or properties where someone buys a house, rehabs the house, and then resells the property for a significant price increase within a period of 18 months. Areas in the dark orange indicates the highest number of rehabs and rapid resales. While this can indicate reinvestment into a community, it may also be an indication of rising sales prices, which could lead to pressure on long-term residents on fixed incomes. Tools that preserve affordability may make sense in these areas. All of this data has helped further our understanding of affordability and housing in Marion County. We can combine the results of this analysis with what we are hearing in our stakeholder meetings and through public feedback to help establish the right policy tools and programs in the areas where they are most likely to be effective. So with that, I'll send the presentation over to Hannah Thomas with our communications team to talk about public outreach.
Thank you, Daniel. Hi, I'm Hannah Thomas, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the Department of Metropolitan Development, and I am so excited to be joining you for Neighbor Power 2022 to connect on public outreach and how your organization can utilize public outreach to meet people where they are and be quick to act, quick to impact. I'm going to talk to you today about public outreach, why good community engagement matters, and how your community can use techniques to meet people where they are. Public outreach is an integral component of our work. Resident engagement drives our decision-making process from parks and trails to policy and programming design and implementation. Residents know their neighborhoods best, so talking with neighborhood groups and resident leaders is at the forefront of our agenda. At the end of the day, we are here to serve the public, and outreach sparks public conversation about the direction our city is headed in. Public engagement takes various forms, from a simple phone call with a constituent to a digital newsletter or a press release. Communication is woven into our everyday work here at City Hall. Today, I'm going to talk about the Oak Tree Revitalization Plan on the Far East Side. Over the course of an 8-month planning process, our planning team listened to residents and other stakeholders to gain a better understanding of the needs and desires of the Far East Side. This resulted in a final plan that sets out our community values and overarching aspirations while simultaneously defining the design and implementation steps needed to make the vision of the Far East Side residents a reality. With this, we tapped into public meetings, stakeholder groups. We had trilingual social media as well as a trilingual survey that ran over the course of a couple of months. We also had the city's first ever bilingual public meeting, which was a really big deal, but we wanted to ensure that we're meeting people where they are and all residents. Indianapolis is a very diverse place. So when it comes to making sure that we're getting input from our neighborhoods, we really take a serious look into how we can design our community toolkit, community engagement toolkit, to be as inclusive and cast as wide of a net as possible. Some other great examples of community engagement from the Department of Metropolitan Development includes the 25th and Monon Plan, which also is another redevelopment site where we implemented surveys and installed signage along the Monon Trail during the pandemic because we weren't able to convene through in-person public meetings. Our signage along the trail on the Monon Trail allowed us to be able to conduct and garner feedback from residents in the area as they were enjoying and getting a breath of fresh air. Imagine the Curve is another great example of surveys and really getting fun with community engagement and finding out what kind of placemaking opportunities exist here. How can we utilize electric vehicle services in these sites that have underground electricity options? As we know, Indy is a city that does not work alone. So with Count Me Indy, all of the city got together to figure out how we can best ensure that we're counting every person in Indianapolis for the 2020 census. So with our partners at La Plaza, our partners at the Urban League, and across the city, we really huddled together to produce multilingual community engagement, whether that was incorporating local artists, having pop-up events, planting tulips along the cultural trail and other sites in the city. We really wanted people to get excited, but also using this as an education campaign for why the census is important, why it matters, and why you should ensure that you're being counted. Lastly, the anti-displacement agenda is our policy proposal for how we should be moving forward in Indianapolis with affordable housing and taking a large look using our stakeholder council and committee with the anti-displacement agenda to formulate policy goals that are now serving as our foundation for our policies for the American Rescue Plan funding with affordable housing. At the end of the day, community engagement drives everything that we do here at the city, like I mentioned earlier, and we could not have done the work that we do without the participation of residents across Indianapolis, from our anti-displacement and inclusive growth policy agenda to our Lift Indy neighborhoods that we just announced this past year, Mid-North and the full Far East Side. We work together as a city. And so community engagement never stops. It's at the forefront of the work that we do. And I'm so excited to see how you too can utilize these tools to empower your neighborhood. Thank you.
In this video, we've briefly talked about ways that DMD is preparing to deploy ARPA funds to make Indianapolis more resilient and equitable, both during the pandemic and beyond. In particular, we've discussed stakeholder engagement, data analysis, and public outreach to strengthen our planning and implementation. That said, anyone can use similar methods. You can do these things too. So let's talk about it. If you remember, we reached out to experts in the field of affordable housing to understand challenges and opportunities for affordable housing in Marion County. If you want to do this, you can reach out to important people in your community. That may be leaders of a neighborhood organization, long-term residents who know the history of your community, owners of nearby small businesses, or other key people like teachers or leaders in your faith community. You can learn a lot about your community by talking to these important people. Everyone brings their own perspective and expertise, and they may view opportunities and challenges in different ways. By bringing their feedback into your project, you can make sure that the project fits your community's needs. The Department of Metropolitan Development has analyzed data to help us match affordable housing needs to the right policy tools. Data can help you understand your community, including its needs. This can be beneficial in a few ways. Data can help you analyze whether you are a good fit for a grant or other type of application. If you're applying for a grant or other types of support that is trying to address a particular concern or population, outside organizations may want to see data to validate your concerns. Incorporating data into your application shows that you've done your homework, which can be key to securing an opportunity. You don't have to be an expert to incorporate data into your work. In many cases, you don't even have to start from collecting and processing data like DMD did. Instead, there are a number of organizations that have data that is already available for use. For example, the City of Indianapolis offers a number of planning and zoning research tools, including MapIndy and the PlanIndy portal, which is shown here on this slide. On indy.gov, you can find information such as property ownership, zoning, land use information, and other plans for your property and neighborhood. You can visit indy.gov and use the term planning and zoning research tools to find these tools, or you can email our department. I've included contact information at the end of the presentation if you need help getting started. A number of other organizations in the community also provide valuable data. For example, the Polis Center at IUPUI offers a number of tools to help people use data to improve planning and decision-making. One particularly helpful project is Savvy, which provides reliable data on communities to organizations and people. On Savvy's website, you can use tools like community profiles to create custom dashboards for your neighborhood or community with high-quality population, employment, education, and public safety data. To get started with this tool, you can visit savvy.org. Our department utilizes public outreach for a wide variety of projects, ranging from neighborhood plans all the way to countywide opportunities like this ARPA funding. This public outreach may be done differently in each circumstance, but it often includes receiving feedback and letting residents know that opportunities are available to them. Public feedback strengthens our work, and it helps ensure their success. Fortunately, there are a number of low-cost or even no-cost ways to reach out to your community. You can always use timeless techniques like going door-to-door or hosting a booth at a neighborhood festival. It is also easy to use social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor to get the word out about initiatives and other projects. You can also get feedback on needs and opportunities through surveys. You can use printed paper surveys or even talk to people and ask questions. There are also free tools like Google Forms and SurveyMonkey, which you can use to poll your community to learn about their needs and their concerns. Stakeholder groups, data analysis, and public outreach aren't the only techniques to make a successful project. However, D&D uses them all the time, and we think they can be a great place to start. We hope you have learned about ways that the team at the Department of Metropolitan Development carries out projects and ways you can use similar techniques. If you're interested in learning more, you can reach out to us at dmdcommunications@indy.gov or by phone at 317-327-5155. You can ask for Daniel, Beth, or Hannah. Thank you so much for watching the video and enjoy the many other great presentations at NeighborPower. See y'all.